Okay, so I have my finished watercolor here. I actually used a hair dryer to blow dry it to expedite the process because I didn't want to be drawing on the wet paper. That would not work out well. And these colors are really light, which is fine. This is not math. There is not a right answer. It is whatever you want to do. If you want to use bright colors, you can. I prefer for these to have a much more subtle color in the background. So that's why I left it light. I added a little bit of purple, and I basically used the techniques that I went over before to just sort of spread these colors out. And when I was happy with how it looked, I stopped. And then I dried it so I could start drawing on it. So we're going to start with the under sketch that we're going to use for the drawing. And what I'm going to do, I'm just looking at this tiger, and I'm thinking, okay, I want this to cut off my page about right here, right? And so I'm looking at the drawing and I'm thinking, well, the leftmost point is going to be the end of his nose. The eye is going to be about in the middle. And I'm looking at proportions. So I'm thinking, okay, when I draw this on my page, if I want it to get cut off about right here, and I'm going to start drawing about right here. And again, I'm going to work from my wrist. I'm going to keep it really nice and loose. I'm not trying to get a perfect drawing right now. I'm just working out the proportions. Okay, and the other ear is about right here. Hair that comes down. And this is really light, and that's on purpose because there's chances are I'm going to go over these lines many times. They're not going to be perfect right off the bat. But if I work quickly and very loosely, I'm going to get the proportions better than I am if I get very caught up in the details before I do anything else. Okay, hopefully that very light drawing translates on the video, but I'm going to start with the edge of the nose, and I'm going to just refine this a little bit more. This isn't really actually doing the drawing yet. I'm just sort of cleaning up my lines a little bit. And again, if I'm going back over this later with a pencil and I see, oh, you know what? I totally put that line in the wrong place. That's all right. Then I just redraw it correctly and, go on and erase it if I need to. It's not a big deal. So this nose kind of comes up, and then there is this arc. But have found, and hopefully, as you're working on drawings, you find this too, that the more practice I have and the more I do this, the more sort of success I have with putting these lines in the right place or close to the right place the first time. So in other words, the more I work, the less I find like, wow, I really did not draw that correctly, right? And I'm looking at distance and I'm looking at proportion. So right here, I'm noticing, that ear just goes a little above the neckline. I'll sort of get that shape in there. Okay, and there's some fur in here. We'll worry about that later. And this is sort of part of the mane. And again, we can add that detail later. I just want to put some lines in that sort of note that. Here's the nose. And really the amount of detail that I add to each of these drawings, I guess it sort of depends on the subject matter. So in other words, if it's a little more complicated, then maybe I'm going to take the time to put some more information in here for myself for when I go back to do the actual drawing. If it's something that's a little more simple, maybe you only need a few lines to act as a guide. And it's also what you feel comfortable with. If you would feel more comfortable with doing the whole drawing and including it in the undersketch just so you feel more comfortable, then that's the way that you should do it. It's whatever works for you. And I'm just going to keep adding these details. I'm putting in the eye. And there's some nice details in the eye I would like to include so I don't forget there's sort of a highlight against the pupil. And I'm also going to add, just as a sort of reference point, some of these dark markings that are around the eye. Alright, so I feel pretty good about leaving my undersketch like that, and then I'll grab my pencil and start the actual drawing.